Commander Ji-won Park's hands gripped the edge of the command console as she stared at the main view screen. The vastness of space stretched before her, but it was no longer empty. 17 massive warships approached in tight formation, their angular hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. Taric battleships, their weapons already powering up, energy signatures flaring on the Nemesis's sensors. "Status report," Ji-won said, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. Lieutenant Do-yoon looked up from his station, face pale but determined. 17 Taric capital ships confirmed, Commander. Heavy cruisers leading with at least 3 Dreadnought-class vessels in the second formation. They've detected us and are adjusting course. Ji-won nodded, taking a deep breath. The bridge of the HMS Nemesis hummed with nervous energy as her crew worked at their stations. They all knew what was at stake. They all knew what the Nemesis truly was, a ghost, a phantom. A ship that, according to every official record in the United Earth Alliance, did not exist. The Nemesis had been built in absolute secrecy in the orbital shipyards beyond Neptune, hidden from prying eyes and spy satellites. After the Tarics had destroyed the human colonies on Proxima Centauri, Europa 9 and New Horizon, killing over 8 million colonists, the Alliance military had become desperate. Conventional weapons couldn't match Taric technology. Conventional tactics led only to defeat, so they'd created something unconventional. Ji-won walked slowly around the circular bridge, touching each crew member lightly on the shoulder as she passed. Hyun-woo at weapons control, Subin managing the shield systems, Taeyeon monitoring the experimental drive systems that gave the ship its impossible speed. "They're scanning us," reported Minji from the sensor station. "Standard Taric protocols. They're trying to classify our ship type." Ji-won almost smiled at that. Good luck with that, she thought. The Nemesis incorporated technology that shouldn't exist, at least not in human hands. Reverse-engineered from recovered Taric wreckage and mysterious alien artifacts found in deep space, the systems aboard the Nemesis violated at least 7 different galactic accords. If the Council ever found out what humans had built, the penalties would be severe. But if they didn't use it now, there might not be any humans left for the Council to punish. "They're hailing us," said Communications Officer Junho, surprise evident in his voice. "Audio only," Ji-won nodded. "Let's hear what they have to say." A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. The translation software converted the alien language into something understandable, but couldn't remove the underlying menace. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your presence here violates the terms of surrender agreed upon after your failed defense of the Proxima colony. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Ji-won looked around at her crew. 25 of Earth's best, hand-picked for this mission. They looked back at her with determination. In their eyes, they had all lost someone in the colony attacks. They all knew what was at stake. "No response, Commander?" Junho asked quietly. Ji-won shook her head. They wouldn't listen anyway. She walked back to her command chair and sat down, her mind drifting briefly to her last conversation with Admiral Kim before the Nemesis departed Earth. They had stood together in the observation deck, looking down at the massive ship as final preparations were made. The Admiral's face had been grave, his eyes tired from too many sleepless nights. "The Taric think they know everything about us," he had said. "They think they've measured our capabilities and found us wanting. They've calculated exactly how much force is needed to crush us." He had turned to her then, his gaze intense. "Show them how wrong they are." As Ji-won had turned to leave, the Admiral caught her arm. "Remember, Ji-won, we're not fighting for victory anymore. We're fighting for survival." Those words echoed in her mind now as she watched the Taric ships move into attack formation on the view screen. "They're charging weapons," reported Hyun-woo. "Main batteries powering up on all vessels." "Defensive posture?" asked First Officer Jin-woo from his station beside her. Ji-won shook her head. "No. Attack formation Delta. Bring all systems to full power." A murmur of surprise ran through the bridge crew. Delta formation was aggressive, designed to take the fight directly to a superior enemy. "Ma'am?" Jin-woo questioned. "The odds—" "I know the odds," Ji-won cut him off. "I also know what this ship can do. It's time to show the Tariq what happens when they push humanity too far. She leaned forward in her chair, eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. Taeon, is the quantum drive ready? The young engineer nodded. Yes, Commander. All systems nominal. The drive can be activated on your command. Good. Jiwon's fingers moved across her control panel. All hands battle stations, secure for high-velocity maneuvers. Throughout the ship, warning klaxons sounded as crew members strapped into their stations. The experimental quantum drive was about to change everything. About this battle, about this war, about humanity's place in the galaxy. Weapons hot, reported Hyunwoo. All experimental systems online and ready. Jiwon allowed herself a small smile as she gave the order that would start the battle that would change everything. Engage quantum drive. Let's show them what the human warship that shouldn't exist can do. The stars on the view screen blurred as the Nemesis surged forward, its impossible engines powering up with a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of space itself. The ship that officially didn't exist was about to make its presence unmistakably known. Supreme War Leader Dawn stood tall on the command deck of his flagship, the merciless Dominion. His four-fingered hand rested on the tactical display, scales, gleaming under the harsh blue lights. Around him, Tariq officers worked at their stations, their movements precise and efficient. Magnify the image, Dawn ordered, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into something his few human slaves could understand. The main screen flickered, showing a single human vessel drifting against the starfield. It was unlike any human ship Dawn had encountered before, sleeker, with strange protrusions along its hull that defied easy classification. Still, it was just one ship. Dawn let out a series of clicks that his crew recognized as laughter. They send a single vessel against my fleet. Have they gone mad with desperation? His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vrel, approached cautiously. The vessel doesn't match any known human designs, War Leader. Our sensors are having difficulty analyzing its composition. Dawn dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Humans are predictable. They've painted it black and given it strange angles to confuse our sensors. A simple trick. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their engines first. I want that. Ship disabled, not destroyed. Their technology may be worth studying before we reduce their homeworld to ash. Yes, War Leader. Targeting solutions locked. Firing in 3, 2. The tactical display suddenly blared with warnings. Red symbols flashed across the screen as sensor operators called out in confusion. War Leader! The human vessel is dividing! Dawn spun toward the main view screen. Where one human ship had been, 3 identical vessels now hovered in perfect formation. His compound eyes widened, outer membranes retracting in shock. Impossible! Scan again! Scans confirm 3 distinct physical signatures, reported the sensor chief, fingers dancing across his console. All 3 are registering as solid matter, not projections or sensor ghosts. Dawn's mind raced. No species had managed to perfect matter replication technology. Even the ancient Miran had only achieved crude duplication that lasted seconds. Yet these 3 ships were identical down to the smallest detail, and all 3 were now moving in complex patterns that no automated system could follow. Target the central vessel, Dawn commanded. Full barrage. The merciless Dominion shuddered as it unleashed its primary weapons, plasma lances capable of melting through meters of hardened alloys. The energy beams streaked across space toward the central human ship and passed right through it. It's not real, Vrel exclaimed. It must be some kind of projection. Then which one is the real? Dawn began, but never finished his question. From the leftmost ship, a beam of distorted space, not energy, not matter, but warped space-time itself, lanced out and struck the cruiser, inevitable conquest. The Sui. Massive Tariq warship seemed to compress from both ends, its middle section crushed as though caught between invisible hands. The ship's hull buckled, then imploded with horrifying finality. Stunned silence fell across the command deck. Gravitational weaponry, whispered Vrel, voice hoarse with shock. They've weaponized gravity itself. Dawn's breathing quickened. That's impossible. Their technological development is at least 3 centuries from achieving such. War Leader. The rightmost human ship is launching projectiles. On the screen, small glowing objects detached from one of the Nemesis copies. But instead of following normal trajectories, they seemed to flicker in and out of existence as they approached the Tariq formation. "Evasive maneuvers!" Dawn roared. But it was too late. The torpedoes didn't detonate against the shields of the heavy cruiser Dominant Will. They simply phased through them, reappearing inside the ship's hull before detonating. Secondary explosions cascaded along the cruiser's length as it broke apart. 2 Tariq capital ships destroyed in less than a minute. "All vessels, concentrate fire on all 3 human ships," Dawn commanded, fighting to keep panic from his voice. "Use all weapons." The Tariq fleet responded, filling space with destructive energy. Some shots passed harmlessly through the holographic duplicates, but others struck the real nemesis. Its shields flared with strange colors, absorbing energies that should have vaporized any human vessel. "War leader," Vrel said quietly, "I believe we should consider tactical withdrawal." "Retreat?" "Before a single human ship?" Dawn snarled, slamming his fist against the console. "Never! I'll die before—" The deck beneath his feet lurched violently as something struck the flagship. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as systems failed across the board. "Direct hit to our main power core," reported the damage control officer. "Shield generators failing, weapons offline." On the view screen, Dawn watched in horror as another Tariq cruiser twisted in on itself, crushed by the impossible gravitational weapon. 2 more exploded as the phase torpedoes bypassed their defenses completely. "How?" Dawn whispered, his translator failing to catch the word. "How have they done this?" The human ships moved with impossible precision, always 1 step ahead of the Tariq targeting systems. It was as though they knew where the Tariq ships would fire before the Tariqs themselves did. Another explosion rocked the flagship as secondary systems overloaded. "War leader," Vrel insisted, "we must retreat and report this to the High Command. The humans have somehow acquired technology centuries beyond their development curve. This changes everything about the war." Dawn stared at the tactical display. Of his 17 mighty warships, only 4 remained operational. 13 destroyed or crippled beyond recovery by a single human vessel. His pride crumbled under the weight of necessity. With a gesture that pained him physically, he gave the order. All remaining ships emergency jump to fallback coordinates. As the surviving Tariq ships prepared for faster-than-light jumps, Dawn studied the human vessel one last time. The holograms had vanished, leaving only the original ship. It made no move to pursue, as if allowing them to flee. The insult burned deeper than any defeat. "This isn't over," Dawn vowed, as space warped around his damaged flagship. "We will return with 1,000 ships." But as the stars streaked into lines around them, a chill ran through his body. For the first time since the Tariq had encountered the primitive humans, Supreme War Leader Dawn felt something he had never expected to feel toward such an inferior species. Fear. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the holographic replay ended. The destruction of 13 Tariq warships by a single human vessel played out one final time before fading away. 700 representatives from across the galaxy sat in stunned silence before the chamber erupted in voices. Ji-won Park stood at attention beside Earth's ambassador, Min-seo Kang, as accusations flew around them like missiles. The circular chamber, with its towering crystalline dome and ancient wooden benches, had never seemed so hostile. "The footage must be manipulated," shouted the Tariq representative, his translator barely keeping up with his angry clicks. "No human vessel could defeat our battle fleet." The Miran Elder, a being of shifting light contained within an environmental suit, floated forward. Her voice was melodious despite the serious accusation. "The technology displayed by this human vessel exceeds known development patterns. Gravitational weaponry, matter duplication. These are theoretical concepts even to my people, and we were exploring the stars when humans were still hunting with stones." Ambassador Kang stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in her calm voice. "The United Earth Alliance has always respected galactic law. While we cannot share all details of our military technology for security reasons, I assure this council that we have violated no accords." The lie was smooth, practiced. Ji-won kept her face carefully neutral. "Every system aboard the Nemesis violated at least one galactic accord. Then explain how your species made a 7th-century technological leap in less than a decade, demanded the Taric representative. Ji-won felt the eyes of hundreds of alien delegates upon her, the blue-skinned Centauri, the crystalline Vorex, the gaseous Thalan in their containment spheres, all watching, all waiting for an explanation no one was prepared to give. Necessity, Ambassador Kang replied simply. When the Taric destroyed our colonies without provocation, humanity was forced to accelerate certain research programs. We adapted. It's what humans do best. The flight back to Earth was quiet. Ji-won stared out the shuttle window at the blue-green planet below. Once she had seen Earth as small. Now, after facing the judgment of the galaxy, her homeworld seemed like the only safe harbor in an increasingly dangerous universe. You did well in there, Ambassador Kang said, breaking the silence. Not showing any reaction when the Miran questioned our technological capability was impressive. I've played poker with Hyun-woo, Ji-won replied with a tired smile. After losing 3 months' salary, you learn to control your expressions. The ambassador's smile didn't reach her eyes. The council is demanding inspections of our research. Facilities. They want to see where the Nemesis was built, how it works. That can't happen. No, it can't. Kang sighed heavily. Which is why you and your crew are about to become very public figures. Heroes of humanity. The brave defenders who saved us from the Taric threat. Ji-won frowned. We're not trained for public relations. You don't need to be. Just smile. Accept. Medals give vague answers about human ingenuity and classified systems. The politicians will handle the rest. And they did. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of ceremonies, interviews, and public appearances. Ji-won shook so many hands, her arm ached. Hyun-woo became a favorite with the media for his easy smile and practiced non-answers. Minji handled technical questions with just enough detail to sound impressive without revealing anything. The whole crew played their parts perfectly, while carefully guarded trucks transported the Nemesis to a deeper, more secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. They became reluctant celebrities. Children asked for autographs. Toy companies created action figures. The Nemesis appeared on everything from lunchboxes to underwear. Everyone wanted a piece of the miracle that had saved humanity. Only at night, alone in her temporary apartment, did Ji-won allow herself to think about the truth. Commander Park, Admiral Kim greeted her as she entered the underground facility. The aging officer looked even more tired than when she'd last seen him. Walk with me. They moved through sterile white corridors, passing armed guards and security checkpoints, deeper and deeper beneath the ocean floor until they reached a massive vault door. The Council is sending investigators next month, the Admiral said as they passed through multiple scanners. By then, we need a convincing explanation for how we developed the Nemesis. Can't we just show them some fake research labs? Prototype engines that look advanced but actually don't work? Kim shook his head. The Miran can detect deception. We need something better. He paused before a final security door. It's time. You knew the complete truth, Commander. The room beyond was circular, illuminated by soft blue lights. In its center sat a large object covered by a heavy tarp. With a nod from the Admiral, 2 scientists pulled the covering away. Ji-won's breath caught in her throat. It was a ship, or part of one, perhaps 20 meters long, with a hull of material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. It was similar to parts of the Nemesis, but more elegant, more alien. What is this? She whispered. The reason the Nemesis exists, Admiral Kim replied. Found beneath the Antarctic ice 28 years ago. No radiation, no sign of the crew, just waiting. Ji-won slowly circled the object. You told me we reverse-engineered Taric technology. We did, but that was only part of it. The gravitational weapons, the quantum field manipulators, the phase shift capability, all came from this. Who built it? Admiral Kim's face was grim. We don't know. The writing doesn't match any known species. The power source operates on principles our best. Scientists still don't understand. We've spent nearly 3 decades studying it, and we've barely scratched the surface. Ji-won reached out, her fingers stopping just short of touching the hull. Why didn't you tell me before? Because the Nemesis wasn't just built to fight the Tarek, Kim said softly. It was built because something left this technology on our planet, something that either wanted to help us or was preparing us for something worse than the Tarek. A chill ran down Jiwon's spine as the implications hit her. You think whoever built this ship wanted us to find it to use it? I think, the Admiral said carefully, that in all the galaxy's long history no species has ever received such advanced technology without eventually paying a price for it. Jiwon looked back at the alien vessel, its hull seeming to ripple under the blue lights. What do we do now? Now? Admiral Kim's voice was heavy with the weight of secrets. Now we prepare, because the Tarek will return, and I suspect they won't be alone. Someone just saw humanity use technology we shouldn't have, and I don't think they're going to be happy about it. As if responding to her presence, a symbol suddenly appeared on the alien hull, a swirling pattern that hadn't been there before. Jiwon stepped back in alarm. It's never done that before, whispered one of the scientists. The symbol glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat, like a beacon, like a warning. The alarm blared through the Nemesis like a wounded animal's cry. Jiwon jolted awake in her quarters, instantly alert. She'd been sleeping in her uniform for the past week, ever since the Tarek fleet had returned. Commander to the bridge, First Officer Jinwoo's voice came through the comm system. They've found us again. Jiwon ran through the corridors, crew members rushing to battle stations around her. The ship vibrated beneath her feet, not from weapons fire, but from pushing the engines beyond their recommended limits. They'd been running for days. When she reached the bridge, the main view screen showed a terrifying sight. Hundreds of Tarek warships spreading out in a vast net formation. At the center of the formation floated 3 massive vessels, each easily 5 times the size of the Nemesis, planet killers. Ships designed to crack a world's crust and boil away its oceans. Status report, Jiwon demanded, dropping into her command chair. Minji looked up from the sensor station, dark circles under her eyes. 342 Tarek vessels detected, including the 3 dreadnoughts. They're using a new scanning technology. Our stealth systems aren't fooling them anymore. They've adapted, Hyunwoo added grimly from weapons control. We've detected energy signatures consistent with gravitational dampening fields. Our gravity lances won't be as effective. Jiwon's mind raced. After their humiliating defeat, the Tarek had clearly analyzed every second of footage, every energy reading from the battle. They'd developed countermeasures specifically for the Nemesis. Can we jump to FTL, she asked. Taeyeon shook his head. Not for another 17 minutes. Drive coils are still cooling from the last jump. 17 minutes. They wouldn't last. 17 seconds once those ships got in range. Plot a course for the Cygnus Nebula, Jiwon ordered. Full impulse power. Jinwoo looked at her with concern. The nebula? The radiation levels will interfere with our sensors. Theirs too, Jiwon replied. It's our only chance. The Nemesis surged forward, its experimental engines pushing it to speeds no human vessel had achieved before. Behind them, the Tarek fleet gave chase, their formation splitting into smaller hunting packs. They're launching fighters, reported Minji. Hundreds of them. Defensive pattern Epsilon, Jiwon commanded. Hyunwoo, target the lead vessels with phase torpedoes. Phase torpedoes away, Hyunwoo confirmed, as the ship shuddered slightly. But Commander, they're emitting some kind of interference field. The torpedoes, they're not phasing through anymore. On the view screen, they watched as the torpedoes exploded harmlessly against Tarek shields. No penetration, no internal detonations. They've neutralized our primary weapons, Jinwoo said quietly. Jiwon's hands tightened on her armrests. Then we run faster. Taeyeon, give me everything those engines have. The chase continued for hours. The Nemesis weaved through the outer edges of the nebula, using pockets of gas and dust for cover. The radiation played havoc with their sensors, but it also confused the Tarek tracking systems. Twice they narrowly escaped by hiding behind massive gas formations, only to slip away when the Tarek ships passed. But they couldn't run forever. Commander, Taeyeon called out, his voice tight with stress. Engine 3 is showing signs of imminent failure. We've been pushing too hard for too long. Can you fix it? Not without shutting it down completely for at least an hour. An hour they didn't have. The Tariq were relentless, their vast fleet able to rotate fresh ships into the pursuit, while the Nemesis's crew grew exhausted. We need options, G1 said, looking around the bridge. The ship suddenly lurched as something struck its rear shields. Direct hit, called out Subin from the shield station. Rear shields down to 60%. They've found us, Minji confirmed. 2 cruisers closing fast. G1 made a decision. Take us deeper into the nebula, maximum speed. Commander, Jinwoo protested, the radiation levels will kill us slower than the Tariq weapons, G1 finished. Do it. The Nemesis plunged into the heart of the nebula, stunning swirls of color filling the view screen as gas and energy surrounded them. The radiation alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Hull integrity compromised in sections 12 through 17, reported Subin. Radiation levels rising. Another hit rocked the ship. Shields failing, Subin called out. One more direct hit and we're done. In engineering, Junho worked frantically to stabilize the ship's power grid as systems shorted out around him. Radiation was seeping through the hull, and the backup systems were being overloaded by the constant power demands of evasive maneuvers. In desperation, he rerouted power through an auxiliary system they'd never fully integrated, one of the mysterious components from the alien vessel that had been found in Antarctica. No one understood exactly how it worked, only that it somehow manipulated space-time itself. Engineering to bridge, Junho called out. I'm going to try something. It might overload everything, but we're dead anyway if I don't. On the bridge, Ji-won's response was immediate. Do it! Junho connected the final circuit and pressed his palm against the activation panel. The alien technology responded not to switches or buttons, but to direct biological contact. The panel glowed beneath his hand, symbols similar to the ones they'd seen in Antarctica appearing briefly before the ship changed. There was no other word for it. The Nemesis seemed to shift sideways somehow, as though stepping through an invisible doorway. The nebula outside the view screen warped, its colors inverting before settling into strange new patterns. What just happened? Ji-won demanded, staring at the view screen in shock. Minji checked her senses, confusion evident on her face. The Tariq ship, they're gone, all of them. Did we jump to FTL? Jinwoo asked. Taeyeon shook his head. No, drive coils are still offline. We're somewhere else. Junho's voice came through the comm system, filled with awe and confusion. Commander, that auxiliary system, I think it's some kind of dimensional phase shifter. We're still in the same physical location, but we've shifted into a parallel dimension. The bridge crew stared at the view screen in stunned silence. The nebula was still there, but different. The colors were wrong, the patterns alien. They hadn't moved through space. They'd moved sideways through reality itself. Can they follow us? Ji-won asked. I don't think so, Junho replied. This technology wasn't part of what we reverse-engineered from Tariq ships. It's from the Antarctic. Vessel only. For the first time in days, Ji-won allowed herself a moment of relief. They were safe, hidden in a place the Tariq couldn't reach, until Minji's console began emitting a strange, pulsing tone. Commander, she said, her voice suddenly small. I'm detecting movement. The Tariq? No. Minji looked up, her face pale. Something else, something massive. And it's coming this way. On the view screen, a shadow moved through the altered nebula. Not a ship, at least not like any ship they'd ever seen. It was organic and mechanical at once, vast beyond comprehension, with appendages that seemed to reach through space itself, and it had noticed them. We're not the first to use this dimension, Junho whispered over the comm. Something lives here, something ancient. The shadow drew closer, resolving into a shape that defied explanation. The Nemesis, Earth's greatest warship, suddenly seemed impossibly small and fragile. Junho, Ji-won said quietly, I think it's time to go back. But before Junho could respond, the entity reached toward them, not with physical appendages, but with something that looked like strands of pure thought, and the Nemesis, for the first time since its creation, was truly the hunted. Reverse the phase shift. Now. Ji-won's order cut through the terrified silence. on the bridge as the vast entity reached for them with tendrils of light and shadow. In engineering, Junho's hands flew across the alien console, trying to reactivate the system that had brought them into this twisted dimension. The system's not responding. It needs time to recharge. On the view screen, the entity drew closer. It was impossible to comprehend its full size. Parts of it seemed to fade in and out of perception, as though human minds weren't capable of processing its complete form. Where they could see it clearly, its surface appeared both mechanical and organic, living metal that flowed and reshaped itself constantly. 15 seconds until phase shift capability returns, Junho reported, his voice shaking. All hands brace for dimensional transition, Jiwon ordered, gripping her command chair tightly. The entity was almost upon them now, its presence creating distortions in space itself. Strange lights flickered across the Nemesis's hull. 3, 2, 1, Junho counted down. Reality twisted again. The bridge crew felt the nauseating sideways lurch as the ship phased back into normal space. The familiar colors of the Cygnus. Nebula returned to the view screen, along with the entire Taric fleet, weapons hot and locked onto their position. "Shields!" Jiwon shouted. "Shields at 20%, Subin responded, working frantically at her console. "Not enough to withstand concentrated fire." Hyunwoo's voice was grim. "Multiple targeting locks detected. They'll fire any second." Jiwon closed her eyes briefly. After everything they'd been through to die here, but the Taric didn't fire. "Commander," Minji said, confusion evident in her voice. "The Taric ships are backing away." On the view screen, Jiwon could see the massive fleet indeed pulling back, creating distance between themselves and the Nemesis. Not retreating exactly, but they're scared of something, Jinwoo realized. But what? The answer came as space itself began to tear open behind the Nemesis. A massive rift formed, not like the smooth transition they'd experienced with the phase shift, but a violent, jagged tear in reality. Through it came the entity they'd encountered in the other dimension. In normal space, it was even more impossible to comprehend. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Its surface rippled with colors humans had no names for. It dwarfed even the Taric dreadnoughts, making them look like toys in comparison. "All Taric vessels are powering weapons," reported Minji. "They're targeting the entity." The lead Taric ships opened fire, their most powerful weapons striking the massive entity. The energy simply dissipated across its surface, as ineffective as raindrops on a mountain. The entity ignored them completely. Its attention was fixed solely on the Nemesis. "It followed us through," Junho whispered over the comm. "How is that possible?" Before anyone could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered, then went dark. A moment later, they reactivated. But instead of tactical displays and system readouts, each showed the same swirling symbol they'd seen on the Antarctic ship. Jiwon felt a strange pressure inside her mind. Not painful, but insistent, like someone knocking on a door. Against all her training and instincts, she found herself relaxing, allowing the presence in. Words formed in her mind, not in any language she knew, yet somehow perfectly understandable. The key returns at last. "Commander," Jinwoo's voice sounded distant. "Are you all right?" Jiwon held up a hand, focusing on the presence in her mind. "Who are you?" she thought. Images flooded her consciousness, vast spaces between galaxies, ancient beings standing guard at dimensional boundaries, a network of sentinel ships placed strategically throughout the universe. "I am Guardian. We have waited long for your kind to find us." "You left the ship in Antarctica for us to find," Jiwon realized. "Why?" "To test, to prepare." The boundary weakens. The adversary grows stronger. More images filled her mind, horrors. Beyond comprehension, entities that made the Guardian seem small by comparison, pressing against the fabric of reality, seeking entry to this universe. Many species tested, few succeed. Humans built the key. Humans may join the watch. Jiwon struggled to process the enormity of what she was being shown. The Nemesis is the key. Key to what? The Nemesis is built from our technology. It can seal breaches, it can strengthen boundaries. It is one of many keys needed. Outside, the Taric fleet had ceased firing, clearly realizing the futility of their weapons against the Guardian. Their ships hung motionless in space, waiting. "There's some kind of war," Ji-won said aloud, her crew watching her with concern. "A war we knew nothing about, between these Guardians and something worse, something trying to break into our universe." The pressure in her mind intensified as the Guardian continued. "The ship you call Nemesis was designed to respond to human biology. Your kind has reached the necessary evolutionary stage. Now you must choose." "Choose what?" Ji-won asked. "To join the Watch, to help guard the boundaries between dimensions, or to remain ignorant and face what comes alone." The implications were staggering. This wasn't about the war with the Taric anymore. This was about something far larger, a conflict that spanned galaxies, perhaps even universes. "If we join you," Ji-won asked carefully, "what happens to Earth, to humanity?" "Protection, knowledge, advancement, but also duty, sacrifice. The Watch is eternal." The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as Ji-won appeared to converse with empty air. Through the viewscreen they could see the enormous Guardian entity hovering near the ship, its impossible form shifting constantly. "Commander," Jin-woo ventured. "What's happening?" Ji-won turned to face her crew, her eyes wide with the weight of revelation. "We've been drafted," she said simply, "into a war we didn't know was being fought." She quickly explained what the Guardian had shown her, about the Antarctic ship being a test, about the Nemesis being one of many keys designed to seal breaches between dimensions, about the ancient network of Guardians standing watch against something that threatened all life in the universe. "It wants us to join them," she finished. "It says we've proven ourselves worthy by building the Nemesis." "Do we have a choice?" asked Hyunwoo. "I think we do," Ji-won replied, "but I'm not sure it's a choice we can make alone." On the view screen, they could see movement among the Taric fleet. A small vessel had detached from the flagship and was moving cautiously toward the Nemesis, comm systems broadcasting on open frequencies. "They want to talk," Minji said in surprise. Ji-won nodded. "Put them through." The face of Supreme War Leader Dawn appeared on screen, his normally imperious manner subdued. "Commander Park, I believe we both now face something greater than our previous conflict." "You've seen it too?" Ji-won asked. "Our oldest records speak of the Guardians," Dawn replied, "ancient beings who patrol the boundaries of reality. If one has revealed itself to you, then the situation is more grave than we imagined. The Guardian says there's a threat coming, something trying to break through from another dimension." Dawn's exterior membranes flickered, the Taric equivalent of a solemn nod. "Then our war is meaningless. I am contacting the Galactic Council. We will offer peace not just to humans but to all species. If what our ancestors wrote is true, we will need every ship, every weapon, every mind working together." The pressure returned to Ji-won's thoughts as the Guardian communicated once more. "The Nemesis is the first of your keys. You must build more. We will guide." "And if we succeed," Ji-won asked, "if we help strengthen these boundaries, then your species lives." "All species live, fail, and nothing remains." As the Guardian's presence withdrew from her mind, Ji-won looked around at her crew, these people who had followed her into battle against overwhelming odds, who had trusted her with their lives. "Well," she said with a grim smile, "it looks like we have a new mission." Outside the view screen, the dimensional rift slowly sealed itself. The Guardian began to fade from view, but not before leaving one final message burning in Ji-won's mind. "The watch begins. We will return when the key is ready." The Nemesis hung in space, dwarfed by the retreating Taric fleet on one side and the fading form of the Guardian on the other. No longer just a warship, but a key to humanity's future. No longer just a weapon, but a shield against horrors beyond comprehension. And Commander Ji-won Park, who had once thought her greatest achievement would be defeating the Taric, now faced the far greater challenge of preparing humanity for its new role as guardians of reality itself. The ship that shouldn't exist had found its true purpose at last.